All right, my friends, we are ready to start. So, just to review a little bit of the halachas of Hatoy v'Hametiv, because we learned them last week and I said I was going to write an email about it, which I did. So those of you that read the email, good for you. But just to go over most of the things in the email, I already said, not really a chiddush. Just a few points. One is that why they made the Hatoy v'Hametiv specifically on wine. So the Alter Rebbe says that because the wine is mesameach elikim v'anoshim, that's why it's a special beverage, and they made it on that. It's a sign of special bracha of Hashem that you have so much of such a special beverage. And we quoted the Mishnah Berurah says it has to do with kalas roish. Too much wine could lead to kalas roish, so it's reminding us of the Meitav bracha, which we say on those killed in Beitar, so it's kind of to calm us down a little bit, remind us of Yom HaMisa. But the Kaf HaChaim also brings that we see wine as special also in terms of Kiddush and Abdallah, and in terms of it being Reish L'chol HaMashkin. So it's the most important beverage. You say the bracha wine, it covers everything else. So that's another reason that we see it's special, and therefore it deserves special thanksgiving to Hashem when you have it. So the bottom line is that according to the Alter Rebbe, there are basically three conditions to be able to make a Hatoy v'Hametiv. Condition number one is that it has to be a better or equal wine. Better is defined as better either in taste or in health. So white wine, for example, is considered better than red wine. So even if it's slightly poorer quality, you can make it on white wine after red wine. On the other hand, if it's white after red, you cannot say it white after red, you can say it even if it's somewhat of a poorer quality because it's a better health. If it's equal, you can say it, even if it's the same grapes and everything, but developed in a different barrel, it's a different taste, so you can say it. We mentioned that there are poskim that say that it has to actually be a better wine, and it can't just be equal. So, and of course, the reason for that is that the whole idea of Hatoy v'Hametiv is thanking Hashem for His blessing and His bounty. So it's appropriate to say it for a wine that's a higher quality. So that's.
People are complaining, saying, waiting for YouTube is saying, waiting for how it's
It works.
I watch it.
Okay, so another point. Second condition according to Alter Rebbe is that you're drinking in a group. The group means at least you and one other person. Drinking in a group means, even though there's different opinions, but we said it means in practice that both people drank the first wine and both people are going to be drinking the second wine. Some add, the Alter Rebbe doesn't say this specifically, but some add that it has to be a revius, both from the first and from the second group. And the whole idea of this is that it's Hatoy v'Hametiv, which is that it's good for you and it's good for others. And that's why you have to do it in a group to be able to say this. Yes.
If, let's say, a 12-year-old, a mature 12-year-old, happens to be having a l'chaim of wine with you.
Do they count as a second one? I don't remember. I think somebody discusses it, perhaps in the Piskei Teshuvos. I don't think so.
Because he's not chayav and thinking Hashem?
No, because it's not like a real group. Even though the whole thing is Hatoy v'Hametiv, it does good for others. I mean, he is an other. So what's the difference? See if I can bring up the Piskei Teshuvos. I didn't bring Rozei Brachot night because he doesn't really have stuff on. Goimel, learning tonight, but he will also discuss it.
Woman.
I think it says a woman does count. A person's wife does count. I have to sketch this here. Oh, I don't see it. Okay. I see it here. Cove, Iron, Cove, I think it
This
is.
is wife or children.
Oh, yeah?
It's mutter, even if it's, yeah, the child could be a 30-year-old.
The child is child, it's less than marriage.
Wife or child?
Wife or child or children.
Yeah. I don't know.
With the notes.
If you want to give a sip of wine to my 2-year-old so I can make a Tova native, because I'm drinking with my 2-year-old, it would make sense. And it's, I don't know.
Okay, I thought the biscuit was discussed, but I just see he says B'nai Beis, so his household members. There he says children. I didn't know he has a section on this. Maybe it's a new print.
It's for all season.
Another.
Oh, it's another one. Oh, wow, I didn't know about this one.
Brachos and brachos for all seasons.
Nice, nice. Sequel. Shayach. 12. Ishtu Banov Imai. He's quoted Shulchan Aruch where it says Ishtu Banov. It doesn't specifically say that they're under bar mitzvah. But let me see if Yeshua adds anything to that. Okay, I don't see it clearly, so I'm not sure. The bottom line is that there has to be some wine left in the previous bottle. And that's also machlokes, but that's in fact the psak.
Couldn't I say there's 3
Three what?
conditions?
Those are the 3.
Oh, it's the third?
That's the third, yeah.
Mind if we just repeat those for all together?
Better or equal wine, drinking in a group, and wine left.
First.
Yeah.
And Chabad does this bracha?
Chabad does the bracha, yeah.
The,
Let's put it this way. I didn't see it anywhere else other than my Rosh Koil's house in Yerushalayim, Chaim Shalom Deitch, but I didn't see
Someone say against.
anybody say against it. And it's Halach and Shulchan Aruch and the Alter Rebbe, and nobody says against it. I saw it being done, so that's it.
Later, man.
so
Then it would have been printed
In this?
somewhere.
the title is that a minor would say Shekayana.
Sure, why not?
But he has a.
Why not? He's like every other bracha. Only bracha on minor doesn't say, that I know of, we'll learn about it today, is Hagoimel. Because Hagoimel is L'chayavim. to those that are obligated. And meaning to say that even though we're obligated to chas v'shalom be punished, but Hashem is kind to us instead. But a minor is not obligated to be punished because he doesn't get punished for his sins. So he doesn't say that bracha. But as far as I know, any
But
other
he's
bracha
obligated to say Shariah.
as the same as he's obligated to say ha'itz. I mean, it's all chinuch. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
all
So the
chinuch.
double method words would be the same.
He would be chayav to say Hateva Meitiv.
So it's
I imagine that Hateva Meitiv is also said when you share a good thing with him. I don't see why not. The only question is if this is considered a group, because he's not really your contemporary. You know what I'm saying? He's like a kid. And it's like you're drinking with somebody, it's like a group drink. I don't know if that applies between an adult and a child. I don't know. That's my only doubt. Hatoiv HaMeitiv per se, like hearing good news that is good for you and for somebody else, as far as I know, it should apply to a child too. Why not? He is somebody else. But this thing about drinking in a group maybe is only a group that is your peer group. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe that's just made up. I shouldn't make things up.
We'll discuss it all tonight.
Yeah, it's a shame.
With the minor, why can't he say?
I just told you why, but yeah.
Saying what's the difference? Saying,
Because he can't say l'chayavim. Zachayev.
גומר לחייבים טובות שגומר לקרוא טוב.
Can't say the word chayavim. He's not
He
chayav.
could say אשר קידישנו במצוויסה וציוונו. He's not 13.
Chinuch midirabbanan.
חינוך מדרבנן.
No, it's chinuch rabbanan. It's kiddushan mitzvah. Yeah. As chinuch, he is
He's
am.
chayav. He's not chayav.
Chayav doesn't mean he's obligated in mitzvahs. Chayav means he's chayav chas v'shalom misa or whatever other punishment. No, hagoyim alachayovim toiles. Hashem bestows goodness upon those who are guilty. We're guilty. We're deserving of punishment chas v'shalom. Instead, Hashem is giving us blessing and miracles. That text doesn't make sense for a person who's not guilty. You understand? That's what it is. Now you could say, why can't he just say it without the word chayavim? Because you have to say the bracha the way the chachamim said to say it. You can't make up your own brachos. Okay. The whole point is that if there's leftover wine, then it's appropriate to thank Hashem for the big blessing that you don't need more wine because you're just enjoying it anyway. In terms of conditions that are relevant according to other opinions. So one is, some say that the wine has to have been, welcome back. The wine has to have been not in your house. Mishnah Berurah says, some say not on your table, and some say not even in your house. If it's in your house and you had a plan to serve it, then some say you can't say Hateva Meitiv. If a guest brought it, or if it came from the wine cellar that's not in your house, then you can say it. Or if you weren't planning to serve it, change your mind.
This is some say?
This Mishnah Berurah brings us down. So that's one thing to bear in
So you
mind.
couldn't have been planning to serve it.
According to the Mishnah Berurah, if it's in your house, you can't say the bracha you're planning to serve.
No wonder it's going to wears anything to be brought. Why is that such a condition? What's the Gemara say? Or who says that?
I think it's based on the fact where, Mishnah Berurah quotes the Shulta Gebarim, I think. But what is it based on? I think it's based on the fact that they say the bracha is either hagafen. One second, let me see. Misquote. We're just reviewing what we learned last week about the bracha on wine, not talking about meitiv. Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, the Mishnah Berurah says, even if both wines are on the table, you set agafen, you don't set teva meitav.
The Alter Rebbe
Does
disagrees
not.
with
Now, the only thing is, if it's on the table, how are you going to say teva meitav? You're supposed to say a bracha on the better wine first. Well, the answer
You
is
had a reason to that.
you had a reason to. You wanted kiddush to be on a sweet wine because you don't want to gulp down dry wine, or you did the wrong thing. You were supposed to make a bracha on the better wine, but you didn't. Fact is, you could say teva meitav. And a more practical example, hopefully you're not doing the wrong thing, more practical example is the wines were equal. There was no one that was particularly better. You could still say teva meitav. The Mishnah Berurah says you can't. He doesn't explain why, but it seems to me that the reason is because it's like when you said it, it was all in front of you. So it's, what's teva meitav? Teva meitav, something new. Well, we weren't expecting it, special thing. Oh, teva meitav. Here it's like the bracha was said on everything together. So if it was not on the table, so when it comes, it's like something new. So then you say it. And some say, no, even if it's in the house, but you were expecting it, it's not a chiddush. So you don't say teva meitav. Teva meitav it's similar to the bracha you say in good news, right? That's the bracha for good news. It's good news. Oh, wow, this is something new. Nice, teva meitav. But if it's there all along, there's no chiddush. You understand? That's the svara, it seems to me.
But is he saying, he goes so far as to say that it wasn't in the house?
That's the opinion he brings from the Lechem Chamudah, sorry. And he says, Safar Brachos L'Hakel. So in practice, if it
Just
was
because one, who's Lechem Chamudah?
Pirush on the Rosh.
Is it Rishon or?
No, Achad. I
Interesting.
don't remember what his name is.
Right, no, that's not.
Pirush on the
So,
Rosh.
saying just because of one, Achron, he says Safar Brachos.
I don't know who argues.
Maybe
on
there's
this,
no
I
one who
can't.
says operating.
Vav is v'chika matur shulchan aruch Allahu adinu Chamudas. Yeah, I don't know who argues on him clearly, so I don't know. So that's one thing to bear in mind according to other opinions. And other opinions say that the hateva meitav, the wine has to be shared. So if it's b'nei beisoi, you're eating with your household members, it's automatically shared. I mean, everything in your house is shared. But if it's guests, they say you have to put it down on the table and tell them, help yourselves, you're welcome to take. The Mishnah Berurah brings this down, and Alter Rebbe doesn't say it clearly, but could be also too. Doesn't say it, but it's from the Magen Avraham. The point is that it has to be not just that they're drinking and you're drinking, but that it's a shared thing, like a teva meitav. You say on good news that the news itself is shared. Not that I have my good thing and you have your good thing, but that it's a shared good thing. So by putting it on the table, you're letting them have, and it becomes theirs, then it's shared. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Okay.
Otherwise, if you're at someone's house and they're offering you wine, so according to that Tanai, it wouldn't be good enough, but you would have to ask them to specifically be more of a partner in the wine.
If they're offering wine and pouring it into your cup and not putting it down on the table, then it's a question.
If you keep it next to them and they
Exactly.
come to them for a cup, let's pass your cup.
Exactly.
But if they put it in the middle and everyone's able to
middle,
take, it's
yeah.
already understood that.
That Magen Avraham says that, yeah. Mishnah Berurah quotes it.
And that's one of the time of the Mishnah.
Yeah, correct.
But myself, I'm saying, but tonight we just said before, almost every situation we've ever been in is
No, the Mishnah Berurah's thing about being in the house is only if you're planning to serve it. If you decided to serve it, then you say the bracha. It's because you were planning to serve it. It's in the house. It's as if it's already present.
But if you, let's say we're about to finish a wine bottle and I said, oh, you know what? We actually have more wine. And I go and bring more wine.
Yeah, not because you're about to finish. The whole point is it's not about finishing. You still have left. But you say, oh, you know what? I got a good wine. I want to share it with you. And you didn't have it. You were planning to serve it.
Okay.
So the partner in the wine has to be in the second bottle, not necessarily in the first.
Second bottle, yeah. Second bottle. He only says it about the
So
second
you
bottle.
make the second bottle, you put it in.
Exactly. Correct. Okay. So, my friends, we are moving on to chapter 13.
Just one little thing I
Yes.
asked last time, I remember the answer. So we should try to create the situation to say this extra bracha or avoid it.
I mean, there's no obligation. It's a bracha that when you're in the situation, you say it. You don't have to create it. If you want to create it, you can. I mean, it's one of those things that's it's an optional
I'm
bracha.
saying sharing the wine, I mean, all these things are nice, and that's what I'm saying, that you should try to behave that way.
I didn't see anywhere that there's a thing to go out of your way to say it.
On Shabbos, maybe to have
On
more
Shabbos,
brachos.
yeah, on Shabbos, that's the reason that I can think of. Shabbos, to be able to get to 100 brachos. Or if you had a baby recently and you didn't say Ateva Meitiv right away, and there's a doubt based on the opinions if you could still say it,
Boy.
a boy, bring on the wine and have your son in mind.
We said for girls, you don't make a shafir.
The Alter and the Mishnah Berurah both hold that you do.
You do make a shafir.
When you see her like a friend.
Right.
Yeah.
And for Spartan, we said not, right?
Sfardim, I don't remember.
Pretty sure it's not. But well, you should try to go out of your way to bring a food or a new jacket or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know I had a baby girl
For,
yesterday. She had a baby in her room.
Nice.
They brought a pool
Oh, on purpose in her room.
at home,
We did it by accident.
in the car, no?
Once in the car, once at home.
That wasn't-
not with the pool. Sure, they bring the.
Not a pool, no.
It
Nowhere,
ended up being a pool.
nowhere
Just
near
not-
a pool.
Water birth or something, yeah, they bring a whole. Kiddie pool. So you could, at one point, wash and use a benching for a board.
Yeah, that's another thing that I have in mind by Ateva Meitiv and Benjing. See if I have my notes about Sfardim for Ateva Meitiv, for Shechianu.
So what is chapter 21?
Some question the ruling. The Merome Soda questions it.
Questions to none.
Shechianu about a girl. But I'm not sure about Sfardim. Let me see. Sfardim, some authority was not going to Sfardim custom is not to recite these blessings, only by the bris. And say Shechianu on a new fruit or garment and have the baby in mind. That is from the. That's from the Seder Brachos. Okay. With no further ado, any questions from cyberspace? Chapter 13, here we go. A individual to whom a miracle happened in a particular place. For example, if a wall fell on him and he was saved, or a wild animal or robbers. He himself is obligated when he sees that place after 30 days. To make the bracha. Blessed are you, Hashem, etc., who made a miracle for me in this place. Even if there is no way to see the miracle based on the place. It happened in a certain place, but there's nothing in the place per se that reminds you of the miracle. You know what I'm saying? Miracle happened. It's an accident, whatever. But it's not like there's a special turn in the road, there's a special thing. That's the place you can say the bracha. And I want to point out, your arm is here. I want to point out that saying a bracha for a miracle is not a simple thing. When I say simple, I mean it's nothing to take lightly. Because when Chizkiyahu HaMelech was in the siege of Sancheriv, and he was saved, as the Navi had predicted, and the Malach came and smote the entire army of Sancheriv in one night, leaving only a handful of soldiers. And the next morning he got up and the siege was lifted. He took his tefillin and he went to Shacharis, and that was it. He didn't say thank you. He didn't sing a song to Hashem. He took it for granted. Well, the Navi said it was going to happen. Of course it happened. Well, Hashem was going to let the Jewish people be destroyed. So he never said Shira. And according to the Gemara, he lost the opportunity to become Mashiach. He was supposed to be Mashiach. If he had said Shira, that would have been it. We wouldn't be seeing him sitting here. We'd be somewhere in Yerushalayim living it up. What can we do? I mean, we don't want to speak bad about Chizkiyahu Melech, a big tzaddik, but we have to learn from that. That when Hashem does a miracle, we have to say thank you. In fact, the reason Hashem does the miracle is for us to say thank you, meaning to say for us to recognize the miracle. And that's the recognition of the miracle, to say thank you. So that's why it's so important.
Isn't that thanks?
That is coming up, yes. There's two ways to say thank you after a miracle. One way is to say Agoymo, and that's not connected to the place at all. On the contrary, you say it in front of 10 Jews, usually by a Torah reading, and nothing to do with the place that it happened. And you only say that once. This is a bracha you say when you come back to that place after 30 days, and then again after another 30 days, no matter how many times. Exactly, forever. And your children forever, as we're going to see, simply because that place reminds you of the miracle that happened, and you can say the bracha.
You know anyone who ever said it?
Yeah.
I never heard it.
My uncle.
Your uncle?
Yeah. My uncle said he was driving up to the mountains in New York State, the upstate, whatever bungalows. And it was just him and his daughter in the car. And like all of a sudden, without warning, the car burst into flames. And the Imamish got out like last second. He grabbed her and he got out, and the car just burned up.
Wow.
He told me he says the bracha when he passes that spot. And my brother, I don't know if he says the bracha, but a similar thing happened to him on the way to the airport in London. He was driving his car, and a taxi driver was next to him in the lane and pointed to him to look behind him. And he looked behind him and he saw some smoke. A big deal, it's an old car, some smoke. And the taxi driver said, no, like pull over. He pointed to the side, and he made my brother pull over. And they pulled over, and also the car started burning, fire. And he was with not just one kid, he was with a few kids. Some of them were in their pajamas. They were taking their relative to the airport. And they all got out of the car, and the car basically burned. So, and that taxi driver, like they looked for him the next day in the system. He couldn't be found. It was like a messenger from Hashem. Anyway, I don't know if he says the bracha, but that's, we're going to learn about it. I'm sorry?
When he goes to Heathrow.
Yeah, at the spot. So it would seem.
It has to be like real life danger.
Life-threatening, yes.
So whenever somebody's sick, whatever, and goes to a hospital to get treated.
Let's first finish this halacha, then we'll see. Do you say both brachas? You say both brachas if it was okay, you know what, let me answer that question right now. What we're talking about is a miracle. A person who gets sick and gets better doesn't say the bracha unless it happened in a miraculous way. In other words, let's say they said it's impossible for you to get better because you need this medicine, and the medicine can't be found, it's not approved, and suddenly somebody came from far away, he had the medicine. How could it be? It doesn't make sense. A miracle, you know what I'm saying? The fact that a person is sick and he gets better, the fact that a person travels, overseas and he arrives, that is a reason to say Hagoimo, but it's not a reason to say this bracha. In some cases, you could say both brachas. This is what Moshe Busser is asking Alan also. In some cases, you could say both brachas, but in some cases, you would only say one. In what case would you say both brachas? If a miracle happened, you were in a life-threatening situation, a miracle happened to save you, then you could say both brachas. Hagoimo, the next aliyah you get after that, and the next bracha when you're in that place. But if it wasn't a miracle, even though you were in a life-threatening situation, and Hashem helped, and Hashem saved, and good doctors, all of that, if it wasn't miraculous, you would not say a bracha.
Yeah, it's relative. I mean,
It's subjective.
Yeah.
I might think it's a miracle and he doesn't
yeah,
think it is.
yeah. Some people go that. I mean, everything around us is miracles.
Everything is a miracle, but not everything is considered a supernatural miracle. Let's put it that way. Something out of the regular realm of nature. We're not talking about the splitting of the sea. We're talking about something that can't really be explained in an easy way naturally. The example he gives over here is that the wall fell on him. Meaning to say the wall fell, and he was in the place where the wall fell. Not that it almost fell on him. He was in the place that the wall fell. And I'll give you an example. When the Twin Towers came down, there was one little space on the bottom where there were like 5 firefighters. On the bottom floor, they had gone in, and the whole building fell around them, and they didn't die. You know what I'm talking about? That's a miracle. I mean, maybe they could explain it some way, the structure, I don't know, but I mean, to have a whole building, 100 and something floor, and they're on the bottom floor, and it fell and left them alive, that's a miracle. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about.
Is there an obligation to go back to the place? Or it's
No.
only if you find yourself in the place?
If you find yourself in the
Some
place.
people are a little superstitious. They have a car accident, they don't want to go back on that route,
Whatever.
But in this case, they really should, so they can say this bracha. And
Yeah.
thank Hashem.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to
At
thank
least
Hashem.
once.
It's an opportunity to thank Hashem. Yes.
Why wait the 30 days?
No, the whole point is that this is a bracha that is called birkas. It's a bracha that you say when you see something, and that's only said if there's an interval of 30 days. Because if you were just there, it's like nothing new or special. It's like the ocean. If you didn't see it for 30 days, say a bracha. Cemetery, exactly. Other things, we're going to learn later, other things. But yeah, that's what this is. All right, Moshe, answer the question.
What's that word that you used? Bracha of what?
Riyah.
Riyah.
Bracha is associated with seeing. I want to point out that according to Sephardim, sometimes you would say this bracha and you wouldn't say Hagoyim. Sephardim, we're going to see coming up, only say Hagoyim for the 4. Sick, imprisoned, traveling, and traveling overseas and traveling with the desert. That's it. Any other life-threatening situation, they don't say it. So a person could have been in a life-threatening situation, saved miraculously. He'll say this bracha when he sees the place, but he won't say Hagoyim according to Sephardic.
The woman is just one time they say it.
Exactly.
That's when you can keep on saying it.
Exactly. Survived the bad car accident? Yes, but only if it was a miraculous survival. Meaning to say a car that went off a cliff, chas v'shalom, and flipped over a few times, whatever, I don't know exactly how many times, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but if it happened in a way that, like, how did you survive? This doesn't make sense. That's when you say the bracha. Car accident that it happened and could have been worse, but it wasn't. That's Hagoyim, yes, but not this bracha.
Like, God forbid, surviving a heart attack.
I don't think so, no. I don't think so. Some people survive heart attacks. Is it a miracle? I mean, Hashem helped, could have been worse, but I don't think that's what we're talking about. Talking about a miracle. Okay. Mishnas lo nisim harbe. Did I say this? If he sees the other place, after 30 days from the first time he saw it, he says another bracha, and the same thing forever, just like all the other brachas that we say on sites. When a person experienced multiple miracles, and he goes back to one of those places, he should say, Baruch Hashem, for the miracle that happened in this place. And once he's saying this place, he also mentions the other place and the other place.
Without going there.
Correct, because once he's saying the bracha, he can mention those places, even though he's not there.
Even if they were different times, as well as different episodes.
Of course, there are different times. They have to be if they're different places.
Yeah. Interesting.
I heard from Label Gulcher, who was a Holocaust survivor. I think I told the story before, but anyway, how they used to go sleep in like lofts in the second story of barns when they were partisans and they were trying to escape, the Nazis or whatever. So, but if the Nazis suspected they were there, they would just burn the barn and Chas Shalom, what was in there was gone. So he was going up the ladder to go to a barn one night, and he felt somebody tug on his pants and call his name. It sounded like his father's voice. And he turned around and there was nobody there. So he started to go up again, and again he felt a tug and called his name. There's nobody there, but he decided he wasn't going to go in that barn that night, and that night they burned the barn. So I don't think he ever went back to those places after the war, but that would be such a place. So, all the descendants of that person, that the miracle happened in that place, if the miracle is recognized based on the place, for example, the wall fell and the wall is still there, or the broken stones are still there. So when they go, they can feel, like they can get a sense of the miracle by knowing the details and seeing the place and so on. So then they can say the bracha. Them and their children until all of the end of generations. I don't know how many generations the wall will stand, but whatever it is, those descendants forever have to thank Hashem because they're basically alive because of that miracle. So they should thank Hashem for that miracle.
Descent, not ascend, like one sounds like something.
I'm sorry?
If a descendant has a miracle, you don't.
Parents?
Mother or parents.
I don't believe the ancestors say the bracha, no. Not the ancestors. We're going to see that Hagoymo can be said by other people. We're going to see. But even though it's not customary, but it's theoretically possible. But this miracle, no. This bracha, no. What they say is, blessed be Hashem who did a miracle for our father in this place. They're all partners in that miracle. I wouldn't say because I have to mention the other places. Because the whole point is it has to be nikar mitach, it has to be recognizable from the place. If it's not, it's not. They're not in the other places, so they can't even say that. Okay, now this is another chiddush. If it is, I'll answer Moshe's question in a minute. If it is a son who was born before this miracle happened. So then he should say the bracha anyway, because it's honoring his parent to say the bracha, recognizing that his parent survived because of a miracle. But it does not apply to his children, because they don't have the mitzvah of kibbud av towards their grandfather or great-grandfather or whatever. And as far as the mitzvah of their being alive because of this miracle, it's not the case, because their father was born first, so they would not say it. That's why the Alter Rebbe says, Al nes avihem. Even the sons that were born beforehand, they're not partners in the miracle. They have to make on the miracle their father, but not more, not grandfather, great-grandfather. Moshe is asking about a place like a concentration camp. A person who goes to the March of the Living, does he make a bracha? If he is a descendant of a person who was saved miraculously in a concentration camp. Miraculously means not like my grandmother, for example. She was selected for the gas chamber 3 times. And one of the times she was actually sitting in the gas chamber waiting for the gas to start. And a Nazi officer came on a motorcycle and said, we need this group for work. And they were taken out and they went to work. So she was saved. Hashem helped tremendously, obviously. But I don't think it's the miracle.
Saying that's a miracle?
I don't think so.
3 times? Yeah.
I mean, we have to judge each time separately. A miracle would be if the gas didn't work. I'm saying the gas, they ran out of gas, or somehow they managed to break out and escape. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that ever happened in the gas chambers. They managed to break out or escape. That's a miracle. They were called away. It's a big chesed, and you could call it a miracle, but it's not like a supernatural miracle. That's what I mean to say. So if a parent or grandparent or great-grandparent was saved in a supernatural way in the concentration camp, and you know the place, and it's a miracle that is recognizable by the place, the gas chambers are still there, or whatever else is still there, so then yes, then they could say it. So
You have to be there again inside, like to see it.
See the place, be at the place.
So why in Hanukkah, when you say Hanehenin, but when it says
It's not the same. I mean, this is a bracha that they made to say in the place. That's a bracha they said to. It's not a bracha, but it's an addition to davening. They said to make on the nisim. I mean, it's 2 different things. This is birkas ariyah. That's what this is called. It's part of the brachos that Chazal said to make when you see it. That's a Thanksgiving that we say for the Nes, just like we say Hallel for the Nisim of Mitzrayim, and that we don't see, because we thank Hashem also for those Nisim, even though we don't see them. Now, there is a machloikis when we talk about a supernatural miracle. Can it be supernatural that's within nature, or does it have to be completely supernatural that has no explanation? Alter Rebbe does not say it has to be like no explanation. Alter Rebbe says, for example, the wall fell. The wall fell. So this brings me to talk about the Entebbe hijacking. So, of course, everybody knows how the Israeli army freed the hostages from Entebbe. And there was a certain group of Hasidim that refused to acknowledge that it could be a miracle from Hashem, because they said that the Zionists are from the Sitra Achra, from the evil side, and it can't be a miracle from Hashem. And the Rebbe was very upset at that, as you can imagine. The Rebbe said, it's not a miracle from Hashem, because from Hashem, Jewish people, and even Chas v'Shalom, I mean, not Chas v'Shalom, you can't compare, but even if they wouldn't be Jewish people, I mean, miracle from Hashem is a miracle from Hashem. How could you say it? Anyway, the Rebbe said, when it comes to discussion in Torah, you can have discussion. When it comes to halacha, halacha decides, and that's it. That's what it is. So the Rebbe said, what is the halacha? Let the Rabbanim paskin. What is the halacha? If one of these people goes back to Antebi, or their children, and so on, goes back to Antebi, do they say the bracha of She'asali Nes B'Makam Hazeh or not? That was, so the Lubavitchers went around to get signatures from the Rabbanim to sign that they should say the bracha to prove the Rebbe's point. And Rabbi, knew what was named the editor of the Encyclopedia Talmudis, Rabbi Sipur Chassidim, he wrote the Sefer Zevin, Shlomo Yosef Zevin was one of the first ones to sign on to that. Was that a miracle like the splitting of the sea? No. But the fact that they were able to get through the guards and pretend to be the Ugandan police with that limousine and that whole thing, and one soldier killed and I think one hostage killed, it was an amazing miracle. So, natural miracle, but something beyond nature within nature. An example that seems to me in the modern day is called the miracle on the Hudson. If you remember that one. Remember that one?
In the lander on
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
The guy flying what was his name? Scully or something. He was flying the plane and both engines went kaput from the geese. And he managed to turn the plane and landed on the Hudson. 90 seconds. 90 seconds from when the geese hit the plane until he landed it. Or actually, I think 15 seconds more, he was still climbing just from the thing. And then 90 seconds later is when he landed it. And in the air traffic control, they said, okay, we're going to redirect you to LaGuardia. Not going to make it. To Teterboro, which is in New Jersey, not going to make it. And then he says to them, I'm going into the Hudson. And that was, and nobody killed, Baruch Hashem. I mean,
That's it's going to be very difficult to be in this situation to repeat. I mean, you have to be on the spot where the plane landed.
no, you have to see it. You have to see it.
I just
Be there.
maybe the shore looking at the
Yeah, if you see it, see it. Okay, we continue and we say, four groups of people have to say thank you, to give thanks. Ulevorech birkas hagoymel, and say a bracha of hagoymel. Kenusach shekasav b'siddur. The Alter Rebbe writes, like the nusach that is written in the Seder. Why does he say like the nusach that is written in the Seder? So the commentaries point out that in the Gemara, it doesn't say the nusach that we say. It says, Goimel chasodim toivim. Hashem grants gracious kindness, not lachayovim toivus. And what we say is based on the version of the Gemara that is in the Rif, the Rosh, and that's what we say. The Alter Rebbe is saying, follow what it says in the Siddur, not what it says in the Gemara. Okay, here are the four. Yordei hayam k'sheyalu mimenu. Those going into the sea when they get up from it. One second. Chaim, exactly. Achol ha'chaim yedu chasela. The Mishnah Berurah says, all of the living will give thanks to you forever. Chaim stands for choila. No. Midbar is the Yam, Yisurim, which is in prison, and Chayla, which is sick, correct. Those that are traveling in the desert when they come to a settled place. A person who was sick and he got better. A person who was imprisoned. Either he was in prison for life-threatening situations, or he was on death row, or he could have been on death row. Or if it was monetary matters, but he was literally in iron chains, which is a situation that could cause a person to literally die just from that kind of suffering. This bracha should be recited in front of 10 people, because the parak in Tehillim that talks about it says, Yahalu b'kahal am. So they praise him in the midst of a people. And they praise him amongst sages. So it's supposed to be said with a minyan and with sages. Two Talmid Chacham.
So the other hand, like Russian, when he got out of jail, he was in a capital charge and he was in chain or nothing else. So
That's a good question. I remember he said Agam. Yeah, it was.
So he shouldn't.
It's a good point. It's a good point. He may have been in chains at some point.
Handcuffs or chains.
It's a difference. Yeah, but I don't know for how long. I don't know how long it had. I don't know. I mean, usually when you're in jail, you're not in handcuffs. So, I don't know. If one had to run to the Ari Miklat, he's running to the Ari Miklat. He's doing it's something that he should have. He's caused it to himself. I mean, why is he running? Obviously,
It's an accidental death.
Accidental death. He should be more careful. The whole thing is, your mikvah is only for a person who did an accident he could have prevented. It's a shogeg. It's not an oinus.
Right. I'm saying it's still shame.
So, I mean, for the trip to the Yer Miklat, is that what you mean? For the trip? I mean, if he's going through the desert, he's going through...
It's out?
Sorry?
Think it's out?
I don't know what Moshe's question is.
Sorry?
Moshe is the one asking this question.
Oh, I thought it was...
If you run to the Yer Miklat, I don't know. If you journeyed through an uninhabited space, why not?
No, it's not. His cousin is the Miklat itself.
I don't know.
If you're in the, a person's in there Miklat for 6 years, and all of a sudden the Kohen Gadol dies, and now glory, hallelujah.
I don't think so. Not for Sfardim, not for Ashkenazim. Sfardim say this bracha only for these four, not for any other life-threatening situation, and they say it for these four whether or not there was a life-threatening situation, just because you were in these situations.
Which are technically...
Which could, in some cases, be life-threatening. But Ashkenazim say it for any life-threatening situation, and only in these cases when there was some kind of danger to life. So being in the miklat is not really either of those. You're not in a desert, and unless the people actually broke into the city and tried to kill the person, he wasn't actually in danger, you know. So it would seem.
Somebody that is in Manhattan and goes every day by ferry to back and forth, no?
So Ashkenazim would only say it if they're literally traveling through a literal desert.
No, I'm saying the sea. I mean,
Oh, the sea.
I don't know if it's a sea or a river. A river would qualify? It has to be open sea.
Okay. The Mishnah Berurah says it depends on the difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazim. So Sephardim say it for going on any journey that's outside of the settled area, lavdafka through a desert. Ashkenazim only say it if they went through a literal desert, where it's a place of danger, thirst, and so on. So similarly, he says Ashkenazim would only say it going out to sea, which is like dangerous. Whereas if you're on a river, I mean, there's land pretty much on both sides. So they wouldn't say it. Sephardim would. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says. I mean, that's what it says. Minhag Ashkenaz and Minhag Sfard. But he says, yeah, that's what he says. But he says, if you're in the sea, right, or you're in the desert, then you say it even Ashkenazim, even though nothing happened that was actually life-threatening, but because it's a place that's dangerous, things could happen in such a place that become life-threatening. That's why you say it even if nothing actually happened.
So how does that into the plane situation?
So the plane situation is dependent on the opinions. Because if it's a plane that goes over land, actually I'm just realizing Sephardim would say it anyway, because it's going over land and it's traveling. A place that's not settled. But Ashkenazim, it would seem, would say it should have to say it whether over land or not, because either way it's a dangerous situation. Ashkenazim say for any life-threatening situation, even if nothing dangerous happened, but it could have happened, even not literally over land. But the minhag, as far as I know, I'm seeing here they're discussing the dish, I'll tell you in a minute, but as far as I know, the minhag is only to say it if the plane actually travels over the sea. So then you have the combination of the somewhat danger of the plane itself, plus the fact that according to the Mechaber, just going over the sea even without danger is enough to say it. So that combination, we say it. Now,
And the plane goes over the desert?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I'm going to look in a minute. But the point is that oh yeah, there are some who want to argue that you shouldn't say it because the lashon in the pasuk, the whole chapter 107 in Tehillim describes all of these four situations: people who are in jail and they're davening to Hashem and they're all in iron chains, and then it describes people who are in this sea and the waves and they call out Hashem and Hashem answers them. That whole chapter of Tehillim describes in great detail. And there it says, Yordei Hayam ba'aniris, those that go down to the sea in ships. So once someone will say, well, you have to go into the sea. To be in a ship, can't be in a flying ship that goes over the sea. But others say, no, most Mepharshim say, no, it's an expression, go down, because that's what they did in those days. But nowadays, you could say it. But I do want to tell you more detail in a minute. Okay, so just to tell you what he says. He basically brings down, some say not to say the bracha at all, like I said before on planes, because they only said to make it for these 4 cases, and this is not one of those cases. It says the Brisker Rav did not say it, and the Chabina Rav helped not to say it. But in any case, also the Tzion. But in any case, he brings others that say that you should say it whether or not you went overseas, simply because the air around the plane is like a sea. What's the pshat of the sea? Why is the sea different than traveling by car? You know, more people die by car accidents, you know, percentage-wise than people die from sea accidents. I'm saying even considering the percentage of people that go to sea, people that drive, there's more percentage of people die of car accidents. So, but we don't say bracha after driving in a car. I mean, maybe from one city to the other, depending on the length, but not stam. So why? Because when you're at sea, the place you're in is a dangerous place. Maybe there won't be an accident, Baruch Hashem. But if there is, the place itself is dangerous. So that's why.
You can maybe see in a small ship. You can be in a very big transatlantic ship. I mean,
Exactly, like the Titanic, where it can never be sunk.
It's very rare that you have one of those big ships.
It's rare, but if it happens, Chas v'shalom, even nowadays, what was that? The thing off the coast of Italy, where the captain was drunk, and a huge thing, not an iceberg. He was drunk, and it was an accident, and the ship went into the sea, and people died. Not everybody, Baruch Hashem, but like 20 people died or something. The captain was.
Sounds like saying it's a lesser occurrence.
Yeah, but it can happen. But the point is that if it happens, there's nowhere to go. That's the point. So that's what he's saying. So Moshe says that the air and the atmosphere is like a sea in that sense. So even if you're not over the sea, it's included in that. So that's what he says. But then he brings others, or Yashiv says only to say it if it's a combination of the plane and overseas. So you have the aspect of the danger of the plane, plus the fact that you're over a sea, so you're fulfilling that one of the 4 categories. He doesn't discuss going over a desert.
So a train, you have trains that go over bridges that go over the sea. Right?
Short, not over the whole sea.
In the Cape, they used to have a train. There's a 7-mile bridge. The train went parallel to the road over water.
So why ask about the train? What about the cars? What about the cars on the bridge? Why is the train different than the cars?
Yeah, okay, but I just want to know about trains.
So for
Train going to the desert. It's not, I mean, it's not dangerous to be on a train, but, I mean, accidents happen on trains, but the fact that it goes on the desert or on the city, it's not more dangerous.
right. I don't know. My thought is the desert. I don't know the answer to that question because the fact is you're in the desert. What's the difference if you're in a train or a car? But it would seem like you should say. That's what it would seem. But over an ocean, on a bridge, I don't think that's called. Even though you're over it, but it's like a bit of dry land over the ocean. You know what I'm saying? It's like they built a little path between the oceans. See? I don't think it's considered being in the ocean, or even like the plane where it's over the ocean. There's nothing there. It's just the ocean. Here you have a bit of dry land that you're going on. So it would seem. I'm not
What about
100% sure.
the bridges or tunnels that go through the ocean, through a river?
So what's on?
It's like tunnels in
Tunnel.
Europe, no? They go through
Channel.
channels.
Channel.
It's crazy.
Yeah, windows, no, it's just,
No, it's
it's not like an aquarium.
you went on the train
Yeah, we went in a car, we go in
and
the
then you're
train,
in the, yeah.
and you stay in the car. the whole
You're in your
ride.
car, or you can take a regular passenger train. Euros, right? Euros.
Here he brings that you don't say it. Rav Wilson says you don't say it because you're not actually over the yam. You're in a bit of dry land. They tunneled out some dry land under the sea. So it's not like you're in the sea. That's it. Now if it would be like in the middle of the sea, surrounded,
No, it's
Exactly.
below. It's in the rock.
that would be a question.
It's underneath
In
it.
the middle,
What?
what does that mean?
I mean, he's saying because it's considered dry land, even though it's under the ocean, but it's dry land. If you would have a tube that goes through the ocean, that would be another question.
That's what we're doing. What are we into?
No,
This is where they built it in the
the
water.
tunnel
They
is
make it
not in the ocean, it's under the
like a
ocean.
submarine. So they make the tunnel like a submarine. You know, it's in the water.
If you go in submarine.
Submarine, you would say it for sure. You're in the ocean.
It's a ship.
Right. Why wouldn't you say it in a channel?
No, the tunnel goes under the ocean, but it's like you're in dry land.
It's the water. It's under-
They tunneled out some dry land under the ocean. It's under the ocean. You're not in the ocean.
So what's the difference between that and the submarine?
Submarine, you're mamish in the ocean. You're in the ocean.
I mean,
It's a ship.
it's just a
You're in the
moving
water.
channel for you to, submarines are moving dry land.
No, it's surrounded by the ocean.
Water.
You,
So is the tunnel.
no, it's under the ocean.
It's not under the ocean.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It's under
yeah.
the
Oh,
ocean.
it's not
Here's
through
the ocean.
Literally under the
Ocean's
ocean.
there. They built it underneath.
Oh, I didn't know.
Literally
They
under
dig
the ocean.
Oh, I
down.
had no idea. There is no tunnel that goes just in the water? Like a,
No.
like a
Then you have
tube?
to.
Oh, that's what I thought you were
Then
talking
you'd have to make a tube or glass.
Yeah.
Not that I know. No, not that I
Only
know.
at
about.
Disneyland.
Oh, I didn't know that. Disney
Disneyland. Disneyland had that in the water.
Yeah.
The original.
Can one that lives in Eretz Yisrael and they constantly fire rockets, Rahman al-Islam, do you have to say Agoyim? I don't think so, unless Chas v'Shalom, the rocket fell, near where the person was and he was saved for Ashkenazim from a life-threatening situation.
Probably would say, Shasam Nixon.
Yeah, maybe. Depending on the situation. Okay. So the point is, if there are no Tamid Chacham there, he should not say the brach. He should not stop from saying the brach because it's not ma'akev. It's best to have Tamid Chacham there, but it's not ma'akev, so you should not wait. The alternative passage is that the one making the bracha counts towards the 10. Others say that it's him plus 10. Alternative passage is that it's him as one of the 10. The minhag is to to make the bracha in shul, in shul after the reading of the Torah. Because then there's for sure 10. And hopefully there's Talmid Chachamim there. You hope. In Berach Pachas Ma'asora, if you made it with less than 10, Yeshem Sheyotza, some say Yotza, to the Achal Ruach Basar L'Shem Malchus. You should say that the bracha again without Hashem's name, because some say you're not Yotza without 10. So when you have 10, you say it again without Hashem's name.
So you are Yotze suffix if you said it with less than 10.
Correct.
Why? Because they say that pasuk is just a hitter.
Exactly. Just like Moshe is a Canaan, the Paskin is a hitter. So there's no.
So why do we say that's a hitter and the 10 is not a hitter?
Not sure. Maybe the one that says that you have to say that it's like a davar shebekdusha, that they were only misakin it with the minion.
I think it has nothing to do with the pasuk. The Chazal, who instituted the bracha, were misakin it with like a davar shebekdusha.
You see, he explains.
When's the last? No, okay, we find Brachos repetition. Other than that, there aren't. Besides the repetition of the Amidah, there isn't a bracha that's necessary to have 10 people. See?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
Sheva brachos.
10 people.
Can't say sheva brachos, not 10.
Okay, so we have 2 exceptions. Good halachic riddles. Good halachic riddle. What bracha can you only say when there are 10 people supposed to read?
It's actually 10. It's 7. Sheva Brachos is 7, but if you want to make it a little more.
There's also 19
Oh,
repetitions of
yeah.
Amidah.
There's 20. Tell me then 27 brachos, so you can say it only with the people. 27. 19 plus 7.
Not sure. Number doesn't explain, so I'm not sure if they hold davar shebekdusha or not. I don't know.
Sure.
So we say that children don't say it, but women do say it. So what's the correct procedure for a woman to,
What's the correct thing to do for a woman?
the correct way of doing it in shul?
For a woman or for a man?
Woman.
Women, the Rav said does not.
Then we're going to see in a minute. The Alter is going to discuss it. Katan, he discussed it right now actually. Katan and Tzach is chinuch mitzvah. A child does not have to, even if he's reached the age of chinuch. And the reason for that is because of the word chayavim, that he cannot say that he is guilty and he's obligated for any punishment.
Why does he use the word tzarech?
Here's a nice. First of all, the reason that we don't say chayavim is based on the Maram Mintz. The Maram Mintz is the one who says that he can't say chayavim because he's not obligated. And to say that he's obligated because of his father's sins, which could be true, because a child can die chas v'shalom for his father's sins up to the bar mitzvah. But that's not respectful to say it. So therefore he doesn't say it.
So why do we say Baruch Shpatan and Shul says that?
Because we're responsible for his chinuch.
So the chinuch could have caused me onish. Like if I didn't do
That
it.
we exactly didn't do it properly.
So he should also say.
Who shows?
Son of the
Oh,
father.
the son of the father. That's not respectful.
But the lashon here is ein tzarich, so it's not required. Doesn't mean that it's not allowed.
So the truth is that I'm looking at Mishnah Berurah, he brings also the Magen Avraham, says a similar lashon. Katan eni mechuyev lahodos. He's not obligated to be moide.
What was the Havamina that he was mechuyev?
Gil chinuch, like any other mitzvah.
He's never mechuyev. His father's mechuyev to take him to the
We
10 people and to make a run.
when a child is in the age of chinuch, we can use the word mechuyev.
Like
Whether
the child,
it's
we say a child
father,
mechuyev
it's
to
the
be
father.
there.
Whether it's, we're not going into the details of the language here, but the Maisa, there's no chiyuv here. But why does he not say that he shouldn't? I'm not sure. Maybe it's not a bracha l'batala.
Which verse is he good?
No, he says a similar lashon. Eina mechuyev.
It's Shulchan Aruch.
Mishnah Berurah.
Shulchan Aruch doesn't mention this.
Magen Avraham mentions it.
But if he sounds like, but if he does,
Sounds like if he does, no.
why no?
Because
Chayavim.
he's Eina mechuyev. If he says it, he says it. I mean, chayavim could go on the father. It's not nice to say it if he says, but if he says it, he says it. That's what it
Because the
sounds like.
Chayavim is going on the father.
Could be interpreted to mean the father. Usually chayavim is on the person himself, but here it could be interpreted.
I
So,
actually saw recently, maybe yesterday even,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. In the case where I forgot why I even saw this whole context, but in short, Pischei Tshuva, I forgot exactly what I was discussing. Pretty much he says that, but the Gemara, whatever Chazal tells them until age 20, he's not obligated to punish us, but then he says no. Then there's another shita that says, Begil Putos. So once a person understands what he's doing, I don't know what gil that is, if that's
Putus is very young.
right. So then he is chayiv in whatever he's doing. He's doing, and he will give the din on whatever he did. And I remember doesn't the Gemara discuss the case that a child bites the mother or whatever, doesn't, right?
Ravashi burned somebody's documents when he was young and he paid it back.
Right, so
If Nimashursa did.
right, so he's, no, what he says there, that the kid will have to give the din.
I'm saying, but it's Nimashursa din. You don't have to do it when it did, but
No, the fixing of it. But I'm saying the punishment is, a person will receive a punishment for even the things that he did as a child when he knew somewhat that it's wrong.
Right.
But no, wait, that's okay. That doesn't make sense because, sorry, I'm interrupting. We can stop. But the Gemara, doesn't the Gemara mention a case of a child suckling from his mother and bit her?
No.
No? Breaking items when he's small, that's the Gemara's.
Great guys when he's small. Biting the mother is a story with one of the Hasidic rabbis. I don't remember which one.
So, okay, but breaking something once he knew that it was wrong to break things, he still needs a, whatever, kapara, tshuva, to say I'm sorry. Or
Yeah, that's what says the one. The Nimashursa did.
Okay, I'm just trying to include this within what we're saying here with the kid. I mean, it could even go on him.
Maybe.
So the bottom line, if we see children saying home in shul, should we say anything?
No, it's the father who should correct them. Or the rabbi. It's not our business.
You say amen.
Meaning that's nobody's gonna correct.
Once he said it, but in the first place.
You say amen?
I don't
So,
I don't remember.
I think so.
I think I see.
It's mashma, it's not a bracha b'tala.
It's with the father.
Son says it with the phone.
The son can listen to the father and say amen, which you could always do. Whenever you're not sure, you could always have somebody have you in mind and say amen. And it's as if you said it. No problem with that at all.
I heard in this specific halacha that it's if you're chayav yourself, you're not a kid, a regular person, you should ideally, there is a tzad like this, I've seen it, that you should ideally not be mitzvah, by somebody else.
Why?
Because you have your own din of chiyuv, of lahidus tashan. Like you can't be mitzvah on din.
That's a chiddush.
I've seen it, it's an halacha. It's not lamaisa, but he says that's why you shouldn't. L'chatchila, just say, a lot of people times there's a line and say, okay, I'm being mitzvah, whoever wants to be mitzvah, yotzei. So ideally, l'chatchila, you shouldn't, but if you did, you're yotzei.
Okay, I know Ashkenazim generally don't do that. You know, everybody says their own, but Sephardim,
Maybe that's the reason.
maybe that's the reason. I thought it was just to, have more kavanah and so on. But it does bring you an interesting thing. If you're not sure if you're chayiv and not goimel, when you say the brachos in the morning, say it out loud with the minyan. When you say the bracha hagoimel chasadim toivim la'ama Yisrael, you have in mind that goimel.
If you're in a suffix, if you're chayav, no.
Exactly.
We'll say it out loud.
Say it loud with 10 people. Say it out loud in the morning. From Ramen. Okay.
Chabad do women in shul.
So the Alter Rebbe says, "V'lochem kol isha yoledes k'shetoka mecholya tvorach v'sakneses shel nashim v'yishma asar nashim v'bifnim." Every woman who had a child, when she gets up from her illness, should make a bracha in the women's section, and 10 men should hear from inside. So this is what the Alter Rebbe paskins, that women should make a bracha. And in fact, I believe that's the Sephardic minhag. The women say it, perhaps at home, if there's they call it Brit Yitzchak, men come to say certain prayers before the bris and so on, that the woman says it. The general Ashkenazi minhag is not to say it. The Mishnah Berurah says perhaps because they consider it not so nuah, not so modest that the woman is speaking up in front of men. Lav urach ara leisha, it's not derech eretz for the woman. But the Mishnah Berurah recommends, or he says, yesha kasvu, some say she should say it in front of 9 women and 1 man. It's an unusual thing. What's the Indian exactly? I don't know. But
For yes.
I understand, but usually a minyan is, where do we find a minyan of women?
In Adlakas there is Hanukkah. You're allowed to in the
On a
case.
public place?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
If you're a woman,
Okay. I mean, by Mikra Megillah also, some say women on the star for the Pesumidis.
you see here, it says the minhag is Sephardim.
Yeah.
There's a katan shegel chinuch b'barach b'Yisrael. Ashkenazim no go shein a katan b'barach b'Yisrael.
I don't think Yaakov Yosef agrees with that.
Oh, yeah?
I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
This is his brother.
So many machlokes in between the brothers. What's going on?
Usually not so many, especially between this brother. The other brothers
Who's the halacha berurah?
of David Yosef, were of Harnof,
And this is?
of Yitzchak Yosef.
And who's the Bavram Yosef? He wrote something also?
He's the youngest. He didn't write much, or anything. He's the Rebbe of Chulon, and he's the youngest of the brothers. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef is the one who passed away. I've had this just to go to his shir many times on Motzei Shabbos and I forgot. He was known as like the biggest of the biggest, meaning between them. But
He wrote- what did he
before
write?
Levadia. He didn't write much, but there's his shiurim on all of Shulchan Aruch that he gave over. He reads Shulchan Aruch and he gives you the whole Sikun Gemara, Rishonim, Achronim. It's the most beautiful shir. Yalkut Yosef is in English. No, but they're unbelievable. He passed away before his father from old age.
Remember, same place Menachem from the same one. Remember, so
Naginu she'im cotton pachas mim gimel shana baruch b'chesed goyimel. Shani yachol em l'chayel b'toivus.
Wow.
Or immense. He discusses in the notes about the age of 20, because really Bezdin Shal Maila doesn't punish till 20. So how do we say a chayavim from 13 to 20? So
אם הגיע למצוות, דהיינו שיש שם 13 שנה, אף על פי שעדיין אינו בן 20 שנה, וברך בגזגון, ומלכוס אף על מן האשכנזים.
if what?
Afa מן האשכנזים, once he reached bar mitzvah, even if he didn't reach 20.
Okay,
So in Chabad, like women don't ever say it.
Honestly, even though the Alter Rebbe says that you do say it, I don't really see it. I don't really see it. My wife said it after our first baby because I was like, that's what it says, so that's what we do. But then I
So
I just realized that nobody else is saying it.
She stand next to the Mahitza
Yeah,
at the time of between, I
I
don't
don't
know.
remember when it was, a weekday or something. She came to shul, Mincha, I don't remember. And she said the bracha.
And the man responded.
Yeah. Well, I told them she's going to say it. They should listen, and she said it.
The Shulchan Aruch
You don't
says
do it
what?
like, you don't
Nashon Chayavos?
do it when the Torah's out?
You don't have to do what the Torah's
You don't
out.
have to do
It's the minhag, but for women, it doesn't make a difference.
So that-
Yeah.
Like Hatchuel said, which was, I found very interesting. He said, it was Sparta, wasn't for women not to make the bracha because of that. But Lamaisa, every shul that I go to, I mean, many, shouldn't say that, many of all the shuls that I've been to, as far as shuls, women do say it.
Right.
Maybe in Brooklyn it's different. It was in Brooklyn. Maybe in Brooklyn they don't.
Right. If they're very Sephardic, then it's no problem because when the husband, came back from the trip to Doral, well, Doral is too close, but I'm saying that an hour's trip, 72-minute trip, he could already say, I go, well, have her in mind. Actually, that's what I told somebody yesterday. Somebody asked me, why it wasn't him, but his cousin, his female cousin, was in a car accident. And she wanted to say Agoymo. But, there's questions about Agoymo. As far as car accidents, it's not one of the four things. So I said, did her husband go on a trip and perhaps not say Agoymo? So he said, yeah, her husband's not from. I mean, they're like traditional. Sephardim, traditional, but not like from in the full sense. So yeah, he's been on many trips and without saying Hagoyim. I said, no problem. So she should go to shul with him. He'll say Hagoyim for his trips and have her in mind, and she'll say Amen, and that's it.
There's also an expiration date. You can
Lachatchila. Lachatchila, it's within 3 days. But B'diavad, there's no expiration date.
you can do it 2
Forever.
weeks after.
2 weeks, 2 years.
2 years.
What if I made what if I missed trips that I said Hagoma on, but then I made a Goma?
No, then you're covered.
It covers everything, even if I didn't want it to.
I'm not sure if you didn't want to, but I assume. I assume so. Misha Samach Belibra Lasal Chaver, a person who is happy in his heart over his friends being saved. He's allowed to say this bracha in this language or a different language. What's a different language? Blessed are you, Hashem, as in Aramaic, King of the world, that gave you to us and not to the earth. So that's not the Hebrew language, but it's Aramaic language of the bracha. And when you're saying it for somebody else, you don't have to say it in front of 10. Because it's not the way Chazal or Masakan it. You're happy. But if he's not happy in his heart to give praise, why does he want to say it? Because he knows somebody's saved, you say a bracha. So, but he doesn't feel the simcha in his heart. Because the whole point of it is to say it over the joy of somebody being saved. It's only if you feel the joy. And let's say you have to say it because it's embarrassing to admit that you don't feel joy, but you don't feel it. What are you going to do? So you say it without shame and malchus. That's Hashem's name.
This is not going through a territory of Nativ.
I mean, we don't find Hateva Mete for salvation. We find it for something new a new thing.
But I think we mentioned when a friend, somebody we were happy because we were.
You didn't see him for a long time, Shechayamu, Tchesa Mason, but we didn't learn about a Tevan Meitiv for salvation. It's a different thing. There's good news from,
So this was for salvation.
yeah. Even with Hashem's name, without Malchus, just Brich Rachmana, which is Hashem's name in Aramaic, shouldn't say it. Very important rule the Alter Rebbe says, saying Hashem's name and is a problem in any language. And if you say a bracha in any language, it could be a bracha l'vatala. I was in a shul once, a Chabad shul, where the not important whether it's Chabad or not, it just happened to be Chabad, and the rabbi, was trying to involve the congregation. So he said Baruch Sha'amar in English, and then in Hebrew. But mamish, the way it's written in the Seder, blessed are you, G-O-D, blah, 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 blah. And then I said to him afterwards, one of those was a bracha l'vatala. I don't know which one, first or the second. Because you're yotze bracha 100% in English. So if you said it in English first, that's it, you're yotze. What are you saying in that Hebrew? And vice versa. I don't know if he didn't have in mind. He didn't.
If you had negative kavanah, works.
I don't know. Maybe he's just saying it for them, but still,
Okay. If he's just saying it for them, and he's not saying the bracha, probably a second. The second.
I don't know. Can you just say it for somebody, not for yourself?
No, you definitely cannot. Oh, it's a bracha, it's a mitzvah.
It's a bracha of tefillah. Maybe you can actually. Tefillah you can. A chazan daven already, but there's nobody else to daven. You can say it.
You can say Baruch Shamar again.
Why not?
Because it's
celebration. Why not?
Because it's a mitzvah. What I'm saying.
No, because it's a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv. Davening is a chiyuv.
So if someone doesn't know how to daven,
chazan can daven even if you daven already. You can daven for the other people.
Really?
Yeah.
Even in Shemona Esrei?
Well, you always do that. Every Chazar Sashat says that. You daven already, and you daven for everybody else.
You daven Shabbos. You daven Nates. You're a minion, you're a Kabul, whatever happened, you davened. 9 o'clock, you're the Chazan. There's no one else who knows how to daven. You're allowed to daven everything again?
Lamaisa, they are not being yotze from you because everybody says their own birkas Krishma, their own Baruch Shamar, and their own thing. But in a congregation where people literally don't know how to daven, and you're saying it, and they're saying Amen, and that's how they're being yotze. Yes.
Because it's bracha of a mitzvah.
It's a chiyuv. I don't know if you call it a bracha of a mitzvah. It is a chiyuv. It's a bracha chiyuv. Yeah, but it's not a bracha that you're saying on a mitzvah.
So not because you're the chazan. Let's say there's no one that wants to stand up and daven for the Amud, and there's 10 people there, and they say, you're the chazan, we pay you, get up there and start davening.
Not because we pay you, if there's no one else.
I'm saying there's other people, no one wants to daven. They want him to be chazan because he's chazan.
No, I'm not makabel that.
They should get up there.
Yeah.
So in the case where people do not know how to daven, you're allowed to continue.
Yeah, that's clear.
So I'm allowed to say a bracha, let's say the person doesn't know the bracha on tzitzis.
Tzitzis, yeah. Birkas Hanehenin not.
Yeah.
Birkas Hanehenin not, because that's not a chiyuv.
Someone needs to say the bracha on talis. I can say the bracha.
And they can say Amen, and that's it, and you don't put on any talis.
Right. So, and if they don't know what you're saying, they don't know the Hebrew.
That's a suffix.
So how do you teach them? How do you teach a bracha? How do you teach the Hebrew school kids or anybody, without saying the bracha?
Kids you could teach. You can even use Hashem's name to teach kids. Kids who don't know, people who don't know, you're not really supposed to teach them with Hashem's name unless they're saying it with you to do the. That's supposed to practice in advance. When you need to do it, you can do it with them word for word, but not before, practice.
So
What's the difference between
that's
kids and adults?
Because kids is chinuch. By adults, there's no.
Why can't you say the adult is now
He's not
practicing
chinuch.
his Judaism?
Because he's not. He's an adult. He's mechuyev. There's no getter chinuch for an adult.
So you're practicing. Okay. Right. Here.
The
moment that he knows.
This it says in Shulchan Aruch. This is not a. It's not a chiddush, it's in Reish Yud Gimel, maybe Reish Yud Dalet. Towards the end of Hilchos Brachos. Special need kids, if they're kids, then yes. If they're over bar mitzvah and they're special needs, I don't know. Not sure what the getter of that is. That's complicated.
There was a question which Baruch Shamar was Brachos or was it the second one?
I don't know. I don't want to be medayik in my words because I don't want to be medayik in my words.
It should be the second.
But yeah, so it would seem. So it would seem. לכן צריך להזהיר לא ישים שרגל לשם אומר ברוך השם לשון אשכנז אף על פי אף על דבר שם ושמחת הלב. Therefore, a person has to warn people who are saying Baruch Hashem in Yiddish, gelobt gimel aleph tes, the Yiddish word for Hashem, God, right? Or if in English, think G-O-D. If you say those words and you're not thinking in your mind, thank you Hashem, that is saying Hashem's name in vain. Because Hashem's name is holy in any language. So when you say Hashem's name in any language, because that's Hashem's name in this language.
It's his name?
That's Hashem's name in this language. That's the translation of Hashem in English.
Isn't that the
G-O-D.
translation of a all-powerful being?
What do you mean? That's Hashem's name. Hashem has 7 names, Lakim, Adonai, whatever. And those names are translated as G-O-D, as Lord, whatever it is.
So someone says, oh my L-O-R-D.
Exactly. Mamish, Shem Shemayim
One of the
Levatal.
10 Commandments.
Shem Shemayim Levatal. It's machlekes one of the 10 commandments. Isn't it? Some say it's only if you're saying it in the context of a shul. Like Sisa is Melashon shul. It's machlekes. But it's definitely close to one of the 10 commandments.
Definitely Nisr Derais. Oh, you're saying that's what's told me.
Yeah. Is that an Issachar, right? So
Rambam says it's
Yes,
Nisr
the
Derais.
instant.
Rambam says yes.
Hashem's name in vain.
I'm saying,
Whoa. So if someone says, well, why wouldn't the word Geo, now I'm scared in my mind. Why wouldn't the word G-O-D or L-O-R-D be forms of describing the Almighty and not?
they're not a description. That's a name. There's a description which is Chanon, Rachum, Chassid, Neman. Translate those words into English, and that's a descriptive name. But those names, G-O-D, that's what we call him. That's not how we describe him. That's what we call him. And Adonai also, that's considered a name of Hashem. It's not considered a descriptive name. That's considered one of his names. Okay, the name describes something he does. But that's considered his name. That's why it's Ein Nimchakim, right? That's why you can't erase it. Because it's not considered a descriptive name. It's considered a name.
So, yeah, but that's what Hebrew saying in English.
If you translate that name into English, the same
What's
thing.
the, Adnos is like,
I think the regular translation of Yud Kei Vav Kei is G-O-D, and Adonai is Lord.
yeah, but popular is,
I'm just saying, however you translate it, whatever the correct translation is, that's what it is. You could argue about the translation. What the translation is translating those names of Hashem.
So if we hear somebody saying Almighty, then we should correct it.
Absolutely. If they're the sort that's going to listen. Let's go a little bit further. I know it's late. You should not make the bracha until you've left the danger completely. You should not, a sick person shouldn't make the bracha until he gets better completely. If he was late, he can say it as long as he wants. Not more than 3 days preferred. If he left from the sakana the second day, on Monday, after Kriya, he got back on a plane trip overseas Monday afternoon. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the 3rd day. If he waits till Thursday, Kriya Satayra, it's going to be the 4th day. During one of those 3 days, after davening, should bang on the bima and say Hagoimel. Because the Sefer Torah is only a minhag. 3 days is some say is Meikar Adin. So that's what he should do.
Have you ever seen it?
Absolutely. I saw it when I did it.
I did also.
Some say that you only make the bracha Ashkenazim. Say you only say the bracha if it's a dangerous illness. Then like an internal wound. Any other wound that a person would desecrate the Shabbos for. In practice, the custom should be if he's in his bed for 3 days or more, even if it's just the flu or bad cold or any other illness that confines him to bed 3 days, that is considered serious enough. He should say the bracha when he gets up. Some say only make the bracha on the 4 that we mentioned. That's the Machaber's opinion. Some say anybody who was in danger and was saved. Or wolf animal, like we said before, where he was saved from a goring ox or a goring horse. Or a lion rose up against him to grab him, b'yishuv, in a settled place. Why does he say a lion got up against him in a settled place? And if the lion got up against him in the wild, then he wouldn't make the bracha? Took me a while to figure this out last time I learned it.
Can you repeat the question? I thought you were asking a question. I didn't get an answer. Can you repeat the question?
Alter Rebbe says he's giving examples of brachas you would say even according to the Ramah. Not even, according to the Ramah, who says you say a bracha on dangerous events, even if they're not one of the 4. He gives examples of a wolf. You were saved from a goring ox, a goring horse, or a lion in the yishuv, a lion in the city.
Because that's a strange event.
So what? And if it's in the desert, and if it's in the forest, so you don't say a bracha? Is that true? I mean, that maybe is that the pshat?
What do you say?
If you put yourself in a dangerous situation, why should you say Agam?
No, all 4 of those situations are dangerous when you're putting yourself in.
Exactly. The answer is simple. If it's not the yishuv, then you're saying the bracha anyway, according to the other opinion.
Why?
Because you went out of the city. You're a traveler. He's saying, some say only say on those 4.
And what if the visit to the outside of the yishuv was 35 minutes?
He's just giving you an example. Even though it's b'yishuv, so you don't have to say it for traveling. Okay, but it's a lie. Anyway. Or if Ganavim came, or Shoydei Laila, how does it translate? Burglars of the night. V'nitzal, and he was saved. Kulam chayim levarach hagoymel. All these people have said, anybody who was in a doubtful, life-threatening situation, this is the custom. This is the Ashkenazi custom. And my friends, I know there's a lot to talk about, but hopefully I will find a connection to the parsha, and I will be able to write something up about it. And then you'll get filled in. Inbox. No, tomorrow we have to finish Perkei Gimel Haroya Chachmei Yisrael, Haroya Malchei Yisrael, Zikim, and Koiles Ra'amim.
What are zikim?
Flying stars. So we still have our work cut out for us.
Someone told me shooting stars nowadays are not real shooting stars.
Absolutely not. They're falling meteorites.
They're not real shooting stars.
Yeah, but for Chazal call stars, things that shed light in the night sky. Planets are stars in Chazal, you know what I'm saying? It's just an expression. That's what it means, yeah. Sure.
Interesting.
Oh, look, people were asking questions and I didn't see. What about driving across Death Valley? I'm sorry, I didn't have it on this page, Daniel. I had it on the WhatsApp page. What about driving across Death Valley? Absolutely. Ashkenazim and Sfardim would both make that bracha. If the car breaks down, you're in trouble. Yeah, correct. Death Valley, you would say the bracha, no question about it. Okay. Thank you all for joining. Sorry I was late tonight. And hopefully tomorrow night I'll be here on time, and we will finish up tomorrow night. We should do a siyum, really. Big thing.
We have a long way to go.
I'm sorry.
We still have a long.
Yeah, it's a short thing. It's only 17.
And the class that I have, so.
I don't think we're going to do it to Saddam. I don't think we're going to do it.
The bracha went to us then?
No, in the Seder,
At the end, it's one chapter.
at the end of the Seder Brachos, there's a chapter about Netilas Yadayim.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm in, Shadas V'Tshuvas?
No. A chapter about halachas.
I'm in Yud Gimel.
After Yud Gimel, what's the
There's
next
nothing
one?
after Yud Gimel by me.
Oh, it's not printed there?
No.
That's strange. Okay, they printed it before. Okay, good night, everybody.
You should join
Thank you very much.
after Sukkot.